Welcome to Audiobook da Morgan. Today's reading is Utz, Chapter 28 by Bruce Chatwin. But before we start, please subscribe on my channel and press the button to activate notifications.
Chapter 28, Utz by Bruce Chatwin. In an unguarded moment, he also confessed to a secret cachet of Meissen, stored in a numbered safe deposit in the Union of Banks Suisse in Geneva. Whenever his share prices rose above a certain level, he siphoned off a sum of money to pay for yet another object. The calculation being that if, over the years, the cachet in Geneva approached the quality, not necessarily the quantity, of the collection in Prague, he might once again be tempted to emigrate. One year, I believe it was 1963, the New York dealer, Dr. Marius Frankfurter, made a special trip to Vichy to offer Utz a piece of porcelain that was quite outside his huge range, a model known as the Spaghetti Eater, made not at Meissen, but at the Gabbiamonte factory in Napoli. In the same baby blue bedroom, Dr. Frankfurter unwrapped the object from its multiple layers of tissue paper and set it on the commode, with the reverence of a priest exhibiting the host. Utz could hardly help comparing its pearly glaze with the warted epidermis of the dealer, but that was life. The ugliest men love the most beautiful things. So, said Dr. Frankfurter. So, Utz pursed his lips. The object was adorable. He was not going to say so. A figure of Puccinelli, the Charlie Chaplin of the Italian comedy, sat lounging in a kind of invalid chair, wearing a corselet of green lace over a loose linen shirt, and a conical white hat like that of a dancing dervish. At his side, a Neapolitan lad in a scarlet cap and purple breeches was feeding him from a chamber pot. Utz was particularly taken with the coils of spaghetti, poised either to plunge into Puccinelli's mouth or into one of his cavernous nostrils. But the price, even Dr. Frankfurter seemed in awe of the price and could only bring himself to mention it in a whisper. Well, said Utz, after recovering from the initial shock, I've never bought a piece of Italian porcelain in my life. How would I know it was genuine? Tchecoslováquia? Dr. Frankfurter spluttered. Of course it was genuine, and Utz, of course, knew it was genuine. He was simply playing for time. But the doctor was aggrieved. He threatened to rewrap the piece in its tissue, only to relent and reel off a tremendous pedigree of the noble Italian families to whom it had belonged. Names that meant no more to Utz than a list of railway stations, Ventimiglia to Baja, until, in a crescendo of name-dropping, he arrived at Queen Maria Amelia herself. Oh, said Utz, it belonged to her, did it? For he knew, and Dr. Frankfurter knew he knew, that before becoming Queen of Naples, this plain and pox-pitted woman had been a princess of Saxony, and was the granddaughter of Augustus the Strong. It was she who, in 1739, had founded the Naples factory, hardly a stone's throw from the palace, as a project to divert her Germanic energies into something useful. Utz made his mind up. The spaghetti eater would have to be bought, if only to rescue it from Dr. Frankfurter's sweaty hands. But he would not give in without a fight. The doctor in what was a mystery, took the line that he was offering the object as a mark of special friendship. He showed Utz a book in which it was illustrated, a chemical analysis of the paste, and a bill from an auction sale in 1949. And the price is a prix GME, he said, not once but repeatedly. I could sell it in America 10 times over for twice the amount. Why don't you? Utz called his bluff. His tactic was to pooh-pooh the productions of the Naples factory. The object, he insisted, was not really in his line, although he would like it in the collection for the purpose of comparative study. The day was overcast and drizzly. He looked from the window at the trees of the Parc de. He had counted on being able to knock a third off the price. Dr. Frankfurter was obstinate as a mule. 5 times the dealer stalked off down the corridor with the box under his arm. 5 times Utz called him back. Once they got as far as the lobby, where the other guests were astonished to see 2 middle-aged gentlemen jabbering in German at the tops of their voices. Eventually they struck a deal, out of sheer exhaustion. There followed a hasty packing of suitcases and a train journey to Geneva, where Utz had promised to withdraw the sum in cash. Neither spoke. Dr. Frankfurter was congealed with anxiety that Utz might wriggle out of the bargain. Utz was sank in gloom that he hadn't gone on bargaining further. They shook hands frostily on the steps of the Union of Banque Suisse. "So, till next year," said Dr. Frankfurter. "Till next year," Utz nodded and turned his back on the taxi. He returned to the bank to examine his purchase alone. He entered the familiar underground corridor where the lines of stainless steel deposit boxes seemed to stretch away like railway lines to a vanishing point. Who knew what treasures they contained? Enough to fill a museum, he chuckled, with a lot of expensive junk. At intervals along the corridor there were tables lit with angle-poised lamps where customers could gloat over their possessions. A woman in a red wig sat fingering an emerald bracelet. Beyond her, a Lebanese dealer in antiquities was protesting the authenticity of a corroded bronze animal. His client, an excitable young man in spectacles, denounced it as a fake. Utz heard the young man say, "Archifax," and trembled. Perhaps Dr. Frankfurter had also sold him a fake. His fingers tore at the tissue paper. He scrutinised the object with a pocket magnifying glass and breathed again. Out of the question. It has to be genuine. The spaghetti was a marvel. Pulcinelli's nose was a marvel. The enamels surpassed in subtlety the colours of Meissen. He had done the right thing. It was cheap. Cheap when one thought of it. Besides, he adored it, and when the time came to return it to its stainless steel coffin, he hesitated. "No," he told himself, "I cannot leave it here." Thus, when others were bent on smuggling out of Czechoslovakia in diplomatic bags or a foreign friend's suitcase any article of value they could lay their hands on, a snuff box, an ancestral decoration, or a Wehrmacht desert service fought by fork, Utz embarked on the opposite course.